Okay, so this is revision session of I thought. Okay, so this is revision session of decolonization, and I just discussed what is decolonization. So let's move on to how did it take place. It took place in three phases. I just had to revise just to be more smooth. The first phase took place after World War II, whereby India, Jordan, and Indonesia were given independence, followed by the second phase. In phase 2, phase 2, it happened right after first Indo-China war. First Indo-China war, not between India and China. It's between Indonesian islands and China. And the countries which were given independence in this are Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. And then came the final phase, whereby final phase was independence decolonization in Africa, whereby independence was given to African countries right after British and France lost the Suez Canal War. From Egypt, I guess. Is the live stream smooth? Not smooth at all. And it depended on too many factors. The factors like white settlers, especially in Africa, where if the white settlers are more, the independence was usually not given, and it continued till 1980s, where the white settlers were more overpowering black majority themselves. There, the decolonization, it was really slow, and it happened until 1980s. Let's look at the reasons. Reasons for decolonization. First reason was economic conditions. Of colonial powers. See, after World War I, Great Depression of 1929, and World War II, European economies were really bleeding economically. So, on top of that, to establish a colony or maintain a colony, it will require more money. So they were like, why not give independence? और कर्मों से हाथ धो लेते. It is like, for establishing a colony, you need money. because there would be local leaders, local powers, or people themselves who will revolt. And in local powers, anyone zamindars would come, or yuva neta, anyone. But when it comes to people themselves, the landless laborers, they are like, who are you to come between my king and his prashasan? They simply question it. So this is one of the aspect, and other is, who knows, there might be another colonial power interested in the same colony. Rival colonial power who is also interested in same and also this rival colonial power, they will resist. So yeah. And cost of maintaining a colony. So the cost of maintaining includes administration, running administration, suppressing national movement, which will require money which will be paid for military personnels or the army in general. So that all requires money. For running an administration, you require a lot of money, and also suppression of national movements. Well, the question was, after World War I and facing Great Depression and World War II, are we really wanting to do this extra kharcha? Because seriously, we don't have money anymore. And then, what is the second reason? Colonial powers, especially like British. Yep. British is crazy. It wanted to maintain special relation with its colony, even after giving independence to colony. And with colony, there are a few steps it took. British was the colonial power which said we will suppress the national movement until some extent, and if it crosses that some threshold, if it crosses that, then we will give independence. But when it comes to maintaining a good relation, it says the same thing like part of Commonwealth. It will say we have established Bretton Woods institutions like IMF, World Bank, etc. So you can have loan. Okay. But when we go to ask them loan, they will link conditionalities with it. So basically, they are like, the age of colonization is over. It's the age of neo-colonization now. Neo-colonization, where you don't directly interfere with local governance, but also trade agreements. When trade agreements must be a sovereign decision of a country, and if you are part of Commonwealth, we are planning this new trade agreement. Welcome, y'all. The third reason is pressure. Pressure by other countries on the colonial powers. Countries like US, USSR, and UN institution. So, US was sympathetic towards US was sympathetic towards colonies as it itself fought Britishers, right? And this was one reason. The other reason is US was sympathetic towards colonies, and the other reason is, what if colonies after independence joins communist bloc? Okay. And this was the time of Cold War, so US had this fear of what if they join communist bloc led by USSR, and that was the one reason. And it was sympathetic towards colonies, that was another reason, because of which it supported decolonization. On the other hand, USSR supported decolonization because it believed colonization is a product of capitalism. And remember this, most of the colonies, they were poor, so it was naturally, they thought it is naturally more possible that these colonies after independence, they are likely to be more lenient towards USSR, and so it thought it would be like a big brother to all independent colonies. Poor colonies they can become ally of communist bloc, or maybe simply join communist bloc. Even on the other hand, it was United Nations, it was an organization which thought more the countries, it will diversify its representatives and also seats. Here is the thing, UN always supports liberalism, supports liberty. So that is why UN this was the third reason. Fourth reason was exposure of soldiers see, there are very few things which happened here, because Allied power had narrative that they were fighting to preserve democracy. So in World War, Allied powers stick narrative of fighting to preserve democracy. But when the soldiers of colony, they came together and saw the countries of Germany and Italy, most of the times their soldiers were defeated. Okay, so now maybe preserving democracy is dur ki baat, because they can't even win. If they are fighting for such a strong narrative of preserving democracy, then why are they losing? This was one aspect. Another one is Japan plus other Asian nations defeated Europe, defeated like Allied powers in few wars, in the beginning of wars. So the most important narrative of Europe whites being undefeated, this myth was busted. Okay, so maybe the next time when I'll revise, I won't have to look at my notes, hopefully. But, so in the end, the soldiers who witnessed all this decided to liberate their own country instead of fighting for some colonial master who came there out of nowhere. Okay, so this stream sucks, guys. At least. Western education led rise to modern nationalism. Whoa. Clearly. Fifth reason why decolonization took place is because Western education led to Western educated individuals who started demanding Western educated intellectuals who started demanding the same thing. Citizens of West demanded. What? Citizens of West demanded equality? I am Western educated individual. If equality is such an important political ideal, then why our country do not have it? We want equality. If justice is so much important of a political ideology, then why not we have it? Why are we treated different than the white settlers? Why are we treated lowly than your people? And also, Western educated individuals during Indian national movement gave economic critique critique of colonialism. Economic critique of colonialism. For example, in India, the popular drain theory by moderates two people who now we saw 5 reasons. So reasons for decolonization. One was economic condition of colonial powers, because they were in great stress after the world wars. And the second is British colonial power. Wanted to maintain a special relation. Yep. So after they tried as much as possible to hold a colony in their hands, but when the movement started slipping from their own hands, they decided to finally let go. But even after letting go, they wanted to reap the benefits of colonialism. So they just changed the cloth of colonialism and they pursued neo-colonialism. And neo-colonialism is simply that we once shared a relation. So be part of Commonwealth. British said so. And they opened Bretton Woods institutions like IMF and World Bank, in which if we want loan, they can give us, but with some conditions. And after those conditions, I don't think you will be free anymore, guys. And also, trade agreement. They might give certain concessions to a fellow colony. At least they said so. And this is what neo-colonialism means. So, and third, pressure of US, USSR and UN. US was sympathetic toward colonies because it fought British ones. And also, what if after independence colonies joined communist bloc? They feared it because it was a time of Cold War. So, and USSR because colonialization is a product of capitalism. They said so, they thought so. And they thought most of the colonies are poor because the resources are anyway being drained by the colonial master themselves. So what if they become independence? We will give them a hand, we will give them backing, and they will hopefully join communist bloc. Even on the other hand, it supports liberty, so it wanted to diversify its representative seats. And the exposure of exposure of soldiers of colony. When they went to fight war with other nations, they saw how the great German or Italian empire is being defeated. And also how other Asian nations and Japan, they are defeating them. So all this myth about white being superior and its white man burden to carry humanity to its emancipation, maybe that's all facade. And this broke their mental chains basically. And if they are fighting to preserve democracy, isn't democracy so important that they would win, but they did not win? So who cares? They decided to liberate their own country rather than follow some people. And here, Western education. After imposing Western education, the people residing in colony, they became Western educated intellectuals who started demanding the same things which the people of West would demand to their government. And giving the economic critique of colonialism, for example, the drain theory of moderates, it's a win-win situation. Chalo, let's go. Now, let's see the trends during colonialism. Rocks really important. So, as I said first, there is a link between white settlers and decolonization. Colonies where large number of white settlers are there, decolonization usually was slow. So, for example, for British, it was easier for them to decolonize Western Africa, then Eastern Africa, it was tougher, and South Africa was the toughest. Cape of Good Hope, guys, Cape of Good Hope, where large number of white settlers have resided over the period of time. Large number of white settlers, they are small. तो यहाँ पे decolonization was fast and here it was relatively slow. Where large number of white settlers were there, it was like the colonial power had confidence that to be in power, to keep the ball rolling. So yeah, maybe I'm making fool of myself, but I thought I really studied it, but while explaining the thing, just mind is going blank. In some cases, the second trend is colonial power, colonial master. They said, okay, we will give them independence. But then the white settlers residing in the colony, they were like, what? But why? White settlers declaring independence. Okay, so once colonial powers said, okay, decolonize. But white settlers were like, no, we won't. So they formed their own rule of whites. For example, in Zimbabwe, minority government of whites. Was formed in 1960. So officially the Britishers said, okay, we give you independence. But then these white people, they ruled on Zimbabwe for to next 20 years. So this was finally given independence in 1980s, guys. 20 years of exploiting these poor people. And in case of French में in Algeria, the colony of French, where the French settlers were there, they took over Algeria, or the soldiers the French soldiers who were residing in Algeria, they revolted against French crown themselves. Charles de Gaulle इतना ना, when Charles de Gaulle he said we are planning to decolonize Algeria, and the soldiers, French soldiers who were residing in Algeria, they revolted against his statement of why. Yep. Next. Yep. This is really easy. British was responsible. British was responsible decolonizer. Whereas French, Bulgaria, Belgian chocolate. Portuguese, they were reluctant decolonizers. What's the difference between being a responsible decolonizer and reluctant decolonizer? Very easy. When it comes to British, they had set certain threshold, okay, certain threshold over which if the freedom movement goes, then they decide in favor of giving independence. This was first step. And also, if the certain threshold is reached and independence is promised, they'll first give self-governance under British Crown, so that the national leaders, the colonial leaders who fought for the independence, they would have some experience. Do self-governance under British Crown, so that colonial leaders have some experience. So that the governance in future would not crumble. So in case of India, maybe Quit India movement 1942 was the threshold which we reached, and after which we were promised independence, and 1947 15th August we were given dominion status. Self-rule under British Crown. But we already had experience, guys. After 1935 Government of India Act, our leaders already had enough experience, so it does not mean anything. But 1950, after drafting our constitution, we were sovereign. Okay, I must revise the spelling of sovereign too. And what does it mean by reluctant decolonizers? They held on to power until very last minute, until the last moment, and then directly they left the colony. Last minute. By force. Military, of course. Military force. And then abrupt exit. Okay. Another trend, third, fourth, man, I'm making fool of myself. Yep, this is very easy, as I said. After colonialism, neo-colonialism began. Look, in the case of absentee colonialism, there was no physical, no infrastructure development. No infrastructure development, no development at all. No development at all. Not even social development. So after they were given independence, they did not know what to do. It was like they lost their capacity. Lost capacity to develop. For example, Angola, when it was given independence in 1975, 1975, when it was given independence, it had no graduates with them. बताओ, ये चलाएंगे देश अब? ओके, हाँ. One was absentee colonialism. Second one was this is also the same, when the colonizers abruptly leave it without proper. If they abruptly leave it, unlike British, who left it very smoothly, abrupt decolonization, the same. What happened when British lived? We had experience and all, but abrupt leaving, inexperienced leaders, experienced people in governance come into power, and governance to crumble karega ही. Plus, mostly tribal people were there. So, border issue plus rivalry with other tribe become national issue for them. Or even within the country, like the Houthis and Rwanda, all those people, they fight with each other. Third one, lack of infrastructure is there, and also no factories. So after independence, many of these people export single market exporters, whereby only one product is exported. Single product exporters, which simply means if the price of the product falls, crashes, economy of the country crashes. Okay. And what happens when the economy of the country crashes? Buy loans from borrow loans from IMF or World Bank with certain conditions. So the conditions are like develop this, develop that. So the people of the country who took the loan, they are not free to use the money in social infrastructure themselves. They have to work on the way, they have to work as directed by these institutions. So which means, are they free in policy making? Maybe not, because of neocolonialism. Fifth, whenever the power was transferred, it was mainly transferred to Western educated moderates. You see, Jawaharlal Nehru. It was never, it will never be Subhash Chandra Bose too if he was there. I mean, but Western educated moderates. Why? Why, you ask? To safeguard life and property of white settlers, to not let the country join communist bloc. That would be a shame if they join communist bloc once they are getting the chance. Okay. One more thing. Idu overall. In Africa, black majority rule increased. In Africa, black majority rule increased whenever the neighboring country has gotten independence. rule increased in a colony. Okay, when neighboring colony got independence, because then they would support them by giving aid, uh, help, any kind of help, that is aid, ammunitions, and guerrilla warfare techniques. Maybe they'll fight alongside them, alongside these people. For example, Zimbabwe got independence only after Mozambique gained independence. Oh man, I need to revise this really one more time. Zimbabwe got independence only after Mozambique got independence. And Mozambique got independence in 1975, right? Whoa, 1980. Sorry guys, Mozambique got independence in 1975. Zimbabwe got in 1980. Southwest Africa only gained independence after Angola gained independence. That was in 1975. And South Africa only gained independence after Zimbabwe gained independence. 19 ಅಂತೂ ಇಂತೂ ನಾ ಇದು ಒಂದು ಲೈಫ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಹೆಂಗಾರ ಮಾಡ್ದೆ. So one more time I'll repeat myself. I am not a teacher. I'm just trying to revise this subject, and as you can see, I'm not good enough for teaching, but maybe I should learn from my lesson and probably revise it. So the next topic, whatever I will do here, this stupid thing, and I'm going to do this stupid thing, I know. I'll be prepared, better prepared guys. And it's just like creating a safe place for myself for because the studying has gotten more boring than it was before, and I just want to vent out. Maybe I should just